When I was 14, I was 15 in the August, and this would have been about 1968, because I was born in 53, so it was about 68. I was 15 in the August, and in those days, if you reached 15, and before you went back to school in the September, the 6th, you didn't have to go back because you were 15. You could leave at 15. So I knew, I'd been waiting for this moment that I could actually leave officially. I'd never started, but I was waiting for this moment when I could leave. And I thought I could just get on with life and with what I was doing. But I used to read all the newspapers because I delivered them. So I used to read them. They were free, so there I got them, and I'm delivering, in those days, the Daily Sketch. I used to deliver the Morning Star to a guy that was a member of the Communist Party on one round, and I would also deliver papers from every political and business, and the Daily Sketch and the Daily Mirror. My mother always read the Daily Mirror, so I delivered that. And I read in the Financial Times that I used to deliver to a bank, I always presumed he was a banker, but I'm not absolutely certain he was. And I'd read an article about if Britain joined the EEC, then we would have to obey new rules. They weren't going to put up with these rules where big factories like Hovis wouldn't clean the ovens ever. They had to be, there was a regular time, and they would bring in more health and safety and all the rest of it. I didn't think any more of it. To be absolutely honest, I didn't think any more of it until I read in the Exchange and Mark that used to be a magazine, a paper that I don't think is on the shelves anymore, although it may be online, I'm not certain. There was a little cartoon ad in there with a lady with a squeezy bottle on a domestic oven, and she was squeezing this fluid, and it said, "Clean your oven even when it's hot." And it was in the form of a cartoon. And I thought, well, that's good. If I could get the rights to that, I could sell that door to door when I'm selling the pictures. So I wasn't really thinking about the FT article at that moment. And I thought, well, I can do that. I can get this. So what's the address? And I looked, and it was an address in New Jersey in America. And I thought, bearing in mind, I wasn't yet 15. I thought, America, and there was a telephone number. So I thought, it won't be an American number, because I didn't know. I'd never used a phone. So I didn't know, and I thought, well, it won't be an American number. But anyway, I'll ring this number. But how do I do that? Because I'd never used a phone. So there was a phone box at the end of our street where my dad lived, and I used to share. My dad by then had a one-bed council flat, and we used to share the bedroom. We had two single beds side by side, and we used to share the bedroom. Much to his annoyance, when I'd bought some chickens, baby chicks, and I had them in a box with a lamp. I plugged the lamp in, and to make them sort of grow quicker, you put this lamp in because it's nice and warm. And I had them in this box, and my dad's in bed one day, and he used to call me Steve-O. And I'm sort of laying in bed. At that time I was about sort of 11 or 12, and he said, "Steve-O, what's that noise? That clucking?" He said, "I bet," Bristolian accent. He said, "I bet that's that Mr. Gardner who lives downstairs," because he was always moaning about Mr. Gardner, and I said, "Yeah, I don't know." And I got these chicks I'd bought from a pet shop. In those days, the pet shops used to sell chicks. You could buy all sorts of things, and I got these chicks with this idea that I was going to have eggs, and I was going to flog the eggs as well. So I got them in this sense, boiling hot in there, and these chicks are obviously too hot. I mean, it's like you were in Mallorca somewhere. They're in there sunbathing in bikinis and all sorts. And I opened the thing, and the chicks were in there. My dad said, "What you got?" And anyway, that's another story, what happened then. But he wasn't happy. So when I discovered this, I thought, I've got to go and make this phone call I'll go and try it. So I went to the phone box. And some of you might identify with this. In those days, you couldn't just go into a phone box and, you could go in and ring if you knew what you were doing. If you were me, you couldn't go in and ring. And it was just when STD was coming in, which, long-distance calls could go through automatically. Before that, really, what you did was rang the operator. Well, in my case, I had to ring the operator because I didn't know what these buttons were for, A and B button. I didn't know what you did with any of that. So I thought I'd better ring the operator. So it said 100, dial the operator 100. So I rang the operator. And I got through to this lady whose name turned out to be Joyce Thompson. And I rang and we sort of got chatting, and I said, I've got to ring this number. And she said, oh, it's an American number. And I said, oh, right, okay. I thought, why don't they put an ad, a load of Americans putting an ad in Exchange and Mart? You know, this is bizarre. Well, I didn't learn until later it was what's known as a test ad. And this is another important thing for budding entrepreneurs, is to remember to test your advertising. Don't spend loads of money until you test it. Test an ad. Don't spend lots of money on it. Test it. See if it works. Because sometimes the best ad you think is going to be fantastic and it bottoms out. And Leon, my son, would tell you the same thing. We look and think it's got to be a winner, and it isn't. And then you have the most bizarre thing, and you have another ad that just works. And you think that will never work. So I rang in the end. She said, well, look, you're going to have to put some, Joyce said, you're going to have to put some money in, and I can tell you how much money you put in the coin box. And you're going to have to get the money. Well, I was okay for money because I was always earning. I had money. I wasn't worried about the money. I was worried about how I did it. So I went off. I'd go and get some notes I had hidden under my bed. They were all 10-bob notes. I can remember that. Used to be red. You know, I got these 10-bob notes out. And up I go to Lipton's, and I get change at Lipton's was a supermarket chain that a lot of you won't remember. He will, because he's old enough. I got these, and I changed this money up for coins. So I come back with these coins to the phone box, and there's a woman in a blue Mac in the phone box. And I thought, oh, I've got to wait now. You've got to bear in mind, I'm more hyperactive then than I am now. And I thought, oh, you've got to come on, you've got to get out of that phone box. So anyway, she was in there for ages. In the end, she came out. I got straight in the phone box, closed the door. I thought, I've got to sort that problem out for the future, because this is now my office. So can't be having you using the phone box. So I'm now in the phone box, and I ring the exchange 100. A lady answers the phone, and I asked for Joyce Thompson because Joyce had told me to do that. In those days, you know, they were smaller, and she came to the phone, and she said, right. She said, how old are you? I said, why? She said, how old are you? I said, why does it matter? I said, well, 18. She said, no, I don't believe you. So we sort of had this chat, and she agreed to help me, long story short. And I remained in contact with her for the rest of her life. So she told me what to do, and I said, no, I can't do that. Because if I ring, she said, well, I'll put you through. They'll just think I'm your secretary. And I thought, that's great. And she said, I said, but you can't do that because they'll hear the coins drop. And she said, I can get over that. I'll work out, how long do you think you'll need? And I said, well, I don't know, 5 minutes. And she said, right, I can work out how much and then you can put the coins in. It'll register at the office once the coins have gone in. It'll register here in the exchange. I'll know, and I can lot you that time, not a penny more, not longer or less, that's it. So I said, fine, okay. And that's what we did. I put the coins in. Joyce rang through, got through to Barry, who we knew, and his brother, and they were in New Jersey, real New Jersey accent. And you've got to bear in mind, this is a kid not yet 15, and I'm now talking to a guy who manufactures cleaning products in New Jersey, and he's a hard-bitten New Yorker. And we start this conversation. And I said, look, you know, if you, I've read your ad. I said, so if you send me over the fluid, you know, I was thinking you send me the fluid. Well, of course, that's a long... He said, no, I wouldn't send you the fluid anyway. We'd have to tell you how to make it up. And like he said, I said, no, but send it to me. I said, if you airmail... Now, I mean, today, you get it instantly, but this was airmail. It used to come in a little blue letter and envelope. And I said, if you send it to me, and I can then make it up here, because I've got a factory, and I'm sort of looking back towards these block of flat cans, and I could sort of see these, sort of in my mind's eye, see these girls that were doing my pictures thinking, oh, no, not a load of fluid coming. And he said, if you do this, I said, if you do that, I'll do it, I'll make it, and I'll sell it, and I'll pay you what we agree. He said, you've got to be joking. You think that I'm going to send you the formula for my cleaning fluid, just like that, and you're going to make it up? And I said, well, yeah, yeah. And he said, well, I'm not. I said, there's no way. So anyway, it didn't work. So I decided I needed to stay in touch with him. So at that point, I needed a way of making sure the phone box remained available. So I decided that my dad, in his job as a French polisher, used to use masking tape to tape joints. So I decided I'd put masking tape round the phone box, and I put an out of order sign on it. So it was out of order. it was quite often out of order anyway, because the windows used to get smashed by vandals and stuff. So I always thought I was doing them a favour. So I made this out of order, put this out of order sign, and then I used to, when I wasn't there, and then when I was, I used to leave the out of order sign round it, and I had a wooden chair. I used to take this wooden chair and put it by the phone box, and sit on this wooden chair with an umbrella waiting for the phone to ring. Because Joyce had told me that people could ring into a phone box, and I had no idea you could do that. So I used to wait for this phone box, you know, for this phone to ring, and then I'd run in the phone box, and I always wary anyone was coming down. They'd say, oh, the phone box is out of order. I'd say, yeah, I'm waiting for the chap to come. Oh, is there another one? Yeah, if you go up, right, wait, phone's ring. You know, so that was what I did. And I realised that Barry wasn't about to supply me with his cleaning fluid any minute now. So I went away from that, and it's another lesson I learned, is never rush. Never rush. So I waited, and I used to ring him religiously every week. I had to step up my production in the factory to pay for it, of course, but I used to ring him. And so I went to the library, any library, and I was lucky because my mum's new husband didn't read, could barely read and write, really. My mother was, as I said, an avid reader, but she'd opted for a man much more low-key than my dad. He was a lovely guy. He was always treating me very well, but he was a very simple man. He didn't really read or write. He was very loyal to her, and they actually lived the rest of their life out together, so I think she ended up being happy with that. But he didn't read, so I could get his 4 library tickets, which was great news. So I had his 4 library tickets in Malmesbury, and my 4 library tickets in Malmesbury, and in Bristol, my dad only read newspapers, so I had his 4 and my 4 from Bristol Central Library. So I would then read. Used to have all these books. So I used to just, I need to find out about America. So I learned everything you could think about America. I went to the library, got the books. So I used to ring Barry, and I used to talk about his interest, which was what he was doing, the States, and what was happening, and all the things I read about culture, what they did, what they didn't, even read about the history of the Red Indians, because he'd mentioned to me in a conversation something about Red Indians, and I thought I'd better know about it. So that was another lesson I learned. If you need to find out something, it was contained somewhere. Most things have been done before. So I used to go to the library and swat up. So I had these conversations. Eventually he agreed to, we got round to talking about it, and eventually he agreed to supply me with the formula with no contract between us. And it took me about 3 or 4 months. I mean, I was really grown up by then because I was past 15. And that was that was another thing that happened. And I now got the formula, so I now could manufacture the fluid. And actually, the formula was so simple, I could have almost worked out by then. But anyway, I'd agreed a deal with him, and that's what we stuck to for the rest of the time. And I built Easy Clean, and we turned it, and I sold it to Initial Group when I was 19 for a fair bit of money, and decided then that I would go into property, because I thought, let's have a look where all the really wealthy people put their money when they've got it, and I decided property had to be the answer.